Hi, here's an wee clip to follow on from the calendar's sawmill. At the back of me is calendars regarding my last clip. Now I've turned around to show you where the Foundry was, Merkison Foundry. That's it along there with the blue walls in it. But when I was young, I remember the old time. Now you'll know that down there is a bypass road. Now that used to be a railway line, and just round the corner there are a set of traffic lights, and at the traffic lights there used to be a footbridge that came right across the railway line to the bridge over there. Now at the end of the bridge was the Foundry. Of course that's all new, the walls there, it was just all brick, the old Foundry. And at the end of the wee bridge that we came across, we used to stand and watch them, the workers there, because just below the bridge there was like a big trough thing, and we used to see the workers actually hook. They were like man covers or drain covers, rowan, something like that, and they dipped them into this trough, which was a kind of black bituminous paint or tar or something, and then they'd hang them up to sort of drip dry. We used to watch them do that, and the smell of the stuff, a kind of tarry smell, and used to hang all these items that they made up there and just left to dry. Then the workers would go over to the other side there, and they would a furnace. I can remember one furnace against the wall there, and the men used to go along the end of the building there. It was all full of scrap iron, so they started picking up bits of scrap iron and put them in this kind of bucket thing. And when the bucket was full, they pressed a button and the bucket went up this side of the furnace. Then it would automatically tip into the top of the furnace. Obviously you'll get sparks and all the rest of it. Then the bucket would come down, and the men would keep doing this until they knew they had enough in the furnace to start the moulding process. We used to watch them do that, but we couldn't actually see inside the factory, the moulding, because there were no windows there. There were doors, but the doors had these kind of rubber flap things on them. The workers used to walk in and out. You couldn't see what was going on in there. But obviously, inside the factory, that's where they did all the moulding, etc. Never forget that. But roughly there, where the building is facing us, to the right hand side there was a kind of lane, and it went over towards the cylinder hill. See the hill over there? That's what remains of the cinder hill. Well, that wee lane, as I say, the factory wall there, the Foundry wall, was red brick, and it was the same at this side along that lane. There were no windows in there, so you couldn't see what was going on. But all this road here, it was all cobblestones. Everywhere here was cobblestones, apart from the wee path going over the bottom of the cinder hill over there. But I'll never forget it. On the right hand side there, where the light grey railings is, there were two sort of units there that I can recall. One of them seemed to be a laundry of some kind, as I mentioned in another clip. As soon as you came near it, you could smell bleach, disinfectant and all the rest of it. There was always women that we saw in there, and it was like big vats, and they had gas rings underneath these vat things, and they actually boiled the water. And these white, they were like linen sheets, they were put in there, and the women had what they called, well, I don't know what they call them, I call them paddles. They're like having a canoe, big wooden things, and used to stick them in now and again, and used to sort of agitate the linen in amongst the boiling water, whatever. In other words, it does the same as what a washing machine does now. And then we used to see them just lift these linen things out of one truck and put it in another one, and that's all we saw them do. And then, of course, at the back, you used to see these linen sheet things hanging up, obviously to dry, I would assume. But that was a wee laundry right next to the Foundry. And a few yards up this way, next to that, was what we saw was a crisp factory. We used to stand at the door, and opposite us was the lassie in charge of all the frying. We used to see her spooning out the crisps out of the fryer onto a tray. And sometimes, if the gaffer wasn't there, she'd come over the door with a couple of handfuls of crisps, and then we'd bugger off away up the cinder hill to eat them. Mind you, they used to pack them there as well. And that was the first time I ever saw them with the wee bags of salt. You remember them? Yeah, I always thought it was Smith Crisps that did that. But I don't know if they were Smiths who owned this place. I don't know. But I can remember the wee bags of salt. And the woman packed these herself. And they were about twice the size of the normal pack you get now. I remember that. If you go to Lidl's and get a bag of crisps, we say about 40 crisps, 2 dozen packs of crisps in a bag. You lift the bag, there's no weight in it at all. But I've tried getting a bag of them, and I went home and the bags are that wee. You open them up and you're lucky if you can find any Tracy or Tatty in there. Just to think you pay what, £3-4 for a bag of 24. You're lucky if you get 2 tatties in the whole bag. Anyway, that's another story. But this is what I can remember here. Way back when I was a kid. A lot of industry here. But as I say, it's all changed. I say down here, it's a bypass road. We used to come along to that wee bridge, as I says, if we heard the train coming, and we'd sit on the bridge and we'd wave to the train driver coming up here. And of course, we seem to know the drivers, because it used to be the same drivers all the time, coming for Grangemouth, back and forward. So what they used to do to us, we'd stand on the bridge awaiting them coming. Then as soon as they got underneath us, the fireman he'd pull some kind of lever, and we'd get one or two things. We'd get covered in steam, or usually it was black smoke. And of course, as they passed, we'd look round and we'd wave and laugh in our head off, because we were all black suit. That was all in the old days. But as you can see, the cinder hill is still there, and so is some of the buildings up the top there, as you can see. But it's all changed here. Just up there on my right hand side, that was where the GPO was, with all their vans. Remember I told you about the vans and the wee telegram boys, motorbikes, the wee bantams. Opposite there is what's now Tony's Tile Shop. He's been there for a while. But just down a bit at the corner there, that's where that wee cottage was I told you about, Peter Buchanan. Never forget that. It's funny, because that house was all painted white. Although it looked similar to the wee cottages at the top of David's Lawn. The ones at David's Lawn weren't painted white as such. This cottage where Peter Buchanan's side, it reminded me of the houses that used to be on the banks of the canal. Leave that to the boffins to decide. I never found that out. But look at it now. It's all lovely walls, lovely and clean, so to speak. Behind the bushes there's more vans, just like this side where Callender's was. It's full of vans. Well, they've expanded and they're now in there. Goes right away along to the Foundry sort of gates along there. Well, more work, more money comes into the area. These vans are no cheap, so somebody comes here to spend their money, I would think. It all gets spent in the area, which is good for Bairnsford and Langley's. So there you go. Getting kind of busy here. Anyway, there's a wee story. Hope you liked it. Bye the do.